Hello everyone, and welcome to Retro Game Review, where we talk about narrative games, their gameplay, and what made them as popular as they are today. The first series of the Retro Game Review podcast will focus on the multi-award-winning 2009 game Batman: Arkham Asylum, which is the first of 4 in the critically acclaimed Arkham series. And in today's episode, we are going to be introduced to how this franchise began, and how Rocksteady Studios made us strike from the shadows and be the Batman. My name is Jake Sweetlove, and this is Retro Game Review. Rocksteady Studios was founded on the 8th of November 2004 by founders Jamie Walker and Sefton Hill. The studio's first official game was Urban Chaos, releasing on the 18th of May 2006, with reviews of 7.9 from IGN and an 8 out of 10 from IMDb. With the publishers Eidos Montreal publishing the game, they hoped they had a new popular company to make games for them. When Warner Brothers came knocking with the Batman IP, Eidos knew exactly who to give it to. And in the space of just 2 years, the game was ready, and by August 2009, Batman Arkham Asylum had hit the shelves. And by September 9th, Rocksteady Studios was founded on the 8th of November 2004 by founders Jamie Walker and Sefton Hill. The studio's first official game was Urban Chaos, releasing on the 18th of May 2006. With reviews of 7.9 from IGN and an 8 out of 10 from IMDb, the publishers Eidos Montreal had hoped a new popular company could make great games for them. And not long later, Warner Brothers came knocking with the Batman IP. Eidos immediately knew exactly who to give it to. And in just the space of 2 years, the game was ready. And by August 2009, Batman Arkham Asylum had hit the shelves. And as of September 9th of the exact same year, it had already sold 2 million copies, with the last reported number equating to over 7.5 million sold in 2015. And by 2023, this number most likely is completely off. When the reviews came in for Arkham Asylum, 9s and 10s appeared across the industry. People could finally be Batman. Now, how did the developers achieve this? Well, through using already established lore and creating their own universe from it. The Asylum's gothic design comes from the 1989 graphic novel Arkham Asylum: A Serious House on Serious Earth. The voice actors and writers had all played a key role in the 1992 Batman animated series, with Kevin Conroy as Batman, Mark Hamill as the Joker, and Arlene Sorkin as Harley Quinn, with Paul Dini being the writer. However, before this game became a thing, there was a chance it would have never been made, as Warner Brothers did not own the rights to Batman video games, as they had been sold as a deal years before. However, Pandemic Studios, which was known for the Battlefront franchise, with Battlefront 2 releasing in 2005, the same year as Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, a mistake from Hollywood actor Gary Oldman, who played Jim Gordon in the Batman Begins and Batman the Dark Knight from Christopher Nolan, made a mistake and mentioned the game, saying how good it looked. There was no knowledge of this game, and this put EA into a panic. With a new engine which they were creating, it was a disaster. And after failing twice to release on the date it should have, their deal was voided. Warner Brothers now had the IP, but they knew nothing of what to do with it. So they asked Eidos Montreal, and Eidos knew exactly who should get it. Now sadly, Pandemic Studios would go defunct on the 17th of November 2009. Today I have interviewed Alex, who... what's a better way of saying this? For the first episode of this podcast, I wanted to learn more about the design culture of video games, and especially this game, because its design was very different for the time, being a comic book but also being the first Metroidvania Batman game. How did they do it? Well, who's better to ask than someone who does the game design course and has 100% completed this game on more than one occasion. Today I am interviewing Alex. This section of the podcast will focus on the first 30 minutes of Batman Arkham Asylum. The focus will go through the opening cutscenes all the way to the Titan boss battle. For this section of the podcast, I will be interviewing Dylan, who has also played the game 100%. For this section of the podcast, I will also be interviewing Dylan, who has 100%ed the game a few times himself. I'll be asking him questions about the first 30 minutes of Arkham Asylum, and his thoughts and feelings as he played it. This gives a different aspect to the game. Because it doesn't just give my version of the game, but it also gives his. That's one down. The game starts with Batman. Blah blah blah. The game starts with Batman taking the now easily apprehended Joker into the asylum, surrounded by multiple armed security guards and Batman, as he is carried through intensive treatment. However, as the guards and Batman leave, I want this to sound good. The game starts with Batman taking the now easily apprehended Joker into the asylum, surrounded by multiple armed security guards. And Batman. The game starts with Batman taking the now easily apprehended Joker into the Gothic asylum, surrounded by multiple armed guards and Batman, as he is carried through intensive treatment. I want this to sound good. The game starts with Batman taking the now easily apprehended Joker into the asylum, surrounded by multiple armed security guards and Batman, as he is carried through intensive treatment. However, as the guards and Batman leave the Joker to the doctors, a now helpless Batman watches as the asylum turns into the Joker's madhouse. And as the Joker escapes, Batman must stop the Joker before everyone on the island and in Gotham is put into grave danger. So, a section which I think is interesting for the people watching. On Twitter there will be a tweet. So, for the people watching, on Twitter there will be a tweet. For this section, I thought of... This section is something which I think is quite interesting to see what fans of the games think. So on Twitter, which is @RetroGameReview, there will be a tweet asking for the 5 most iconic lines from all the characters, but only in the first 30 minutes of the game. In the next episode, I will read out these quotes. Let's see, I need this to sound good, and I don't know how. This section. For this section, I want to ask people. For this section, as the first 30 minutes of the game have now been discussed, this section will focus on you, the audience. And through social media, @RetroGameReview, a tweet will be put up. As we are now past the first 30 minutes of the game, I thought of a little segment. This segment will focus... For this segment of Retro Game Review, I want to introduce... For this segment of the first episode, I want to bring the fans into the talking points. So, on Twitter, @RetroGameReview, there will be a tweet asking people for the 5 most iconic lines from characters in the first 30 minutes of this game. At the start of the next episode, we will go through a few of these, explaining why people enjoy them. Right, okay. For this segment of the first episode of this podcast, I thought of an idea. As it's the first episode, this segment for this first episode, oh my god. As this is Retro Game Review and we are talking about older games, I thought it would be a nice idea to bring the audience into it, the people who have played these games. And one of the things I want to do is ask people iconic lines. Now, for the first episode, I want the iconic lines to focus more... Oh, I hate this. This segment of Retro Game Review will focus on you, the audience. On Twitter, @RetroGameReview, there will be a tweet asking you for the 5 most iconic lines from the characters in the first 30 minutes of the game. You can order them or not. This segment will focus on you, the audience. This segment will focus on you, the audience, as I want to involve you. This segment of For this segment, I want to introduce you, the audience. This segment will introduce you, the audience, into the podcast. On Twitter, at Retro Game Review, there will be a tweet asking people for the 5 most iconic lines from all characters in the first 30 minutes. Now you can explain to us why they're so iconic to you and maybe what meaning they have to you. And in the next episode we will speak about them. If you didn't... That was good enough. Thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for listening to Retro Game Review. Within the next episode we shall focus on where Gordon is. The outside... I hate that. Thank you everyone for listening to the Retro Game Review. Oh, this is where I do my stupid proscia. Thank you everyone for listening to the Retro Game Review. Within the next episode we shall focus on where Gordon is, the outside of the asylum, and the infamous Predator combat. Tell your friends about us and make sure to follow our Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And for more information, check the Retro Game Review website. Thank you for listening, and until next time on the Retro Game Review. Where's the button to stop it?